Real eco-based warfares. Hello again, and welcome to the Rise of the Eco Guards. Stand on Guard with me channel. In this continuing segment of the Infringement Guise video series, entitled Real Eco-Based Warfares, I'll delve further into some of what I learned over a great many years, and I'll express in this limited form just some, or part of what's in store in the upcoming video entitled The Greater North 63rd, that will be released soon. Anyways, I'll now express my thoughts on this. The Infringement Guise, Real Eco-Based Warfares, prequel, but also an insert portion of the Greater North 63rd video to follow soon. Most big businesses only care about one thing: making big profits, regardless of whatever the human or environmental cost might be. And they'll always lie while convincing societies that they are all angels out to help humanity and our ecosystems, when nothing could be further from the truth. Just like their current net zero and carbon tax initiatives that are all illusions with smoke and mirrors and are meant to distract you all from learning or knowing the truth about a great many things. But on the other hand, small businesses are the real backbones of all economies and societies that are just trying to exist after being currently attacked over the last decade. While they are all trying to maneuver around all the bullshit being perpetrated by all the larger entities, conglomerates, and many governments, while still achieving their goals without completely disappearing from the overall market landscape. And that proof of those larger entities' dominance and supremacy overall is written in all their business plans, for how can anyone predict their future sales or outcomes? Then when they fail, they file bankruptcy and place the burden of economic weight and the environmental cleanups that are usually required when they walk away from those failed major projects or manufacturing facilities upon those societies. For we've seen examples of those factuals many times here in Canada alone, such as those types of environmental cleanup efforts in Cape Breton, otherwise known as the Nova Scotian Old Steel Production Mills, or coke ovens, or the closure of the Canadian National Railway, or CNR repair shops in Moncton NB, which were all not cleaned up properly, and of course the Ontario Nickel Belt areas, which was only surface cleaned and limitedly restored by groups of peoples with great intents, but have really only masked over the deeper problems. But like all those large corporations, the dirt and grime sinks deep and is not easily wiped away. But if they would listen when stripping those natural resources from the ground, they could restore those areas without much difficulty. But they don't want to pay for it. And eventually that makes the nation's taxpayers do so, such as dealing with all the old abandoned oil wells that need to be dealt with properly. I say, learn from the oil sands projects in the province of Alberta, for they are currently learning and acting in a better, more environmentally beneficial manner, at least in their industries. It's all a very bad game. Big business is always seeking out the least expensive manners and workforces to do their productive biddings, constantly moving their factories around the world. They are not benign, for they are worse than any type of cancer. And guess what? That past old world order that our current liberal government has admittedly sided with during the last so-called leadership debate on television on the 25th of February, 2025, and is also going through its own types of negative transitions, is now partly siding with the rising Chinese and Indian New World Orders or offshoots of that past World Economic Forum. But even those organizations are just a limited public facade of whoever is really controlling those efforts. It's comprised of mostly big businesses and vast conglomerates that conspire to keep themselves relevant with whatever changing ripped-off so-called green or innovative ideas and concepts they steal through the many systems they have to achieve those goals. And that's easily witnessed and achieved, even more nowadays, mostly because of the Internet of Things. Moreover, in order for them to continue, they heavily influence the governments of mostly weaker countries, like Canada and elsewhere. But they also use all countries, playing all sides against each other, and sometimes keeping some of those countries at bay for tapping into their natural reserves, at least until they are ready to use all those natural resources for their own agendas, making promises of economic prosperity and so much more, which of course they never properly fulfill. but move on from those countries just prior to even achieving those tales of grandeur. And their limited goals are better achieved within Western cultures, for our governments change every 4 or so many years. And to mention the truth, so do those companies' names, for they can't remain with their original names, for those governments could hold them legally liable for all those environmental damages. While they and our governments continue pumping out greater and greater forms of mainstream media propaganda through heavily influenced and sometimes corrupt organizations, such as the Canadian Broadcasting Corporations or the BBC. But also understand, not all of those corporate employees are complicit. And those facts of controlling economies and any business interests were seen in the prior and then in the recent past within both the German and Japanese societies before and even after the Second World War, and only after the American Marshall Plan to rebuild those war-torn nations in Europe had mostly been achieved by the now disappearing American working class. But also, in their view, when it became too expensive to pay their own people's ever-increasing wages. Then, later, it was South Korea's turn, and slightly still is. But now, Thailand, China, and India are taking all their places, and their times on top will end as well. Then they'll target Africa, and then South America, or vice versa, when they are no longer of any use to the old world order of the World Economic Forum, or WEF, or any other so-called rising new world orders, and most of those big businesses. With that said, not all businesses or peoples that profit from those are the same, for some do want a better manner of achieving their prosperous goals without killing humanity and our ecosystems. Follow the money and find the truth, for it's all linked to our ancient past and present financial institutions, but recently and primarily those of the past incarnations of the British Empire or just another form or offshoot of the Roman Empire. For they believe, if you control the money, food, waters, and land resources, as well as the thoughts and hearts of the masses, you control the world. But truly comprehend, now is the time to change that real narrative and bring about a better change, where all of North America can achieve better, more profound manners of working within their sovereign nations, and increasing the quality and standards of the goods, products, and lifestyles that are far beyond what they've been pushing on all of us for all those past decades. Also comprehend those past products and goods that they've been pushing on all of us in the last several decades have all been designed to break down or only last 3 to 6 years at best. For that's how they believe that they can continue in business and make more money. And those products and goods are not easily recyclable, for they are all mingled with plastics, steel, aluminum, and electronic printed circuit boards that are beyond difficult to take apart to recycle. And that's not even including all the many so-called green products, such as solar panels, composite material wind turbines, batteries, and so much more, that can't be recycled properly at all. And that's because of the energy and human labor that would be required, that they, of course, refuse to pay for. But there are exceptions to those negative rules, for the Apple Corporation has created a robotic manner of recycling those used iPhones and iPads. I know this to be true, because the eco-guards organizations have been working at finding and bringing those types of eco-based solutions to the table for well over 40+ years. For we truly attempted those major recycling efforts and goals for a great many years, actually with no help from any of them, all governments included. And we found many past products that were sent to us, such as older American-made CRT televisions, that are still working well after 50 years of service. Nothing like mini LCD or LED televisions that break down in 3 to 5 years or less. And that's not including all the older washing machines that are also still working. That said, we've rehomed many of those, but we know they'll eventually end up in our waste streams. That indicated, they continue selling you all the same types of things that look great but are pure pieces of shit that take much energy and raw materials to create over and over again, instead of looking further into a better manner of making those, and if necessary, creating new forms of skins to make those durable products look great once more after so many years of use. For people in general, always want slight changes in how their belongings appear or look. It's just part of human nature. The cell phone industry partly caught on to that concept years ago. It would be far less expensive and energy-consuming and would go a long way to truly helping with our true eco-based goals, to stop the rape of our world's resources that are not indefinite. And it would truly make a real impact on their beliefs in what's been occurring with climate change. If they choose not to, then understand many real resource, economic, and other eco-based wars are coming, and they may not survive those. But I'm sure their arrogance and greed tells them different tales. Now, with all those things indicated, I'll leave off at this point, for even this video is getting slightly away from the narrative that needs to be expressed, and I'll ask that you join me next time for the upcoming video in this series, entitled The Infringement Guise, Part 4, The Greater North 63rd.